What do you want me to brief, Surya? Any particular topic or what is gone through in the second unit? Total second unit. Okay, Amma. To start with, unit 2 is very important. We will deal with integrity constraints over relations firstly, which are nothing but a set of rules or conditions that needs to be satisfied while you're performing any data insertion, updation, or deletion. So integrity constraints ensure that the data insertion, updation, and other processes have to be performed in such a way that data integrity is not affected. Okay, so actually this is used to guard against accidental damage of the database. So if at all we want to see that the data in the database should be proper, then we are trying to satisfy the integrity constraints over the relations. Okay, so in simple terms, these are nothing but the conditions that needs to be satisfied by the data that is being inserted or updated into the database. Okay, there are different kinds of integrity constraints, ma. The first one is domain integrity constraint, entity integrity constraint, referential integrity constraint, and key constraints. These are the major integrity constraints that needs to be taken care of. First one is domain, second one is entity integrity, and third referential integrity, and fourth is key constraint. Okay, talking about the domain constraints, it can be defined as the definition of valid set of values. So what are the values that an attribute can accept is given by the domain constraints. Okay, and the data type of domain includes, all of you know that, the string, character, integer, time, etc. So whenever you say that the domain of a particular attribute is an integer, you have to only enter an integer value into that particular attribute. So clearly an example is given over here. Age is taken as an integer value and I cannot enter a value character into the age field. That is taken care by the domain constraints, domain integrity constraint. Next, entity integrity constraint specifies that the primary key value cannot be null. Indirectly, the primary key attribute of a particular database cannot take a null value. So in an employee table, assuming that employee ID is a primary key, I cannot leave that primary key value empty because entity integrity constraint specifies that primary key value cannot be taken as a null value. So that is with respect to your entity integrity constraints. I'm just giving the brief. Next is referential integrity constraints. So referential integrity constraint is specified between two tables, and this is done using the concept of a foreign key. Okay, wherein A foreign key references to the primary key of another table. A foreign key references to the primary key of another table. Okay. And whenever you are talking about referential integrity constraints, the foreign key values should be part of your primary key values, and null values are also allowed. Null values are also allowed in a foreign key. How we are going to create a foreign key, or how we are going to work with referential integrity, is this way. So I'm trying to create a table T1 with ID as a primary key. So create table T1, ID integer as primary key, and I am trying to create a table T2. I'm trying to create a table T2 with ID and integer. There are two attributes. One is ID, the other one is age. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make ID of table 2 refer to table T1. ID of table T2 to refer to ID of table T1. Or I can even make age of table T2 to refer to T1. It's up to you. So which particular attribute you want to make a foreign key is up to you. But the domain of both the attributes with respect to table T1 and table T2 should be the same. So how I'm making that referring is foreign key ID references table 1's ID. So using this particular statement, I can say that there is a connection established between table T1 and table T2, which is nothing but your referential integrity. Okay, then talking about key constraints, these are called uniqueness constraints, since it ensures that every tuple in the relation should be unique. So every tuple in the relation should be unique implies that each row in the table is different from the other row with respect to a particular sense. Okay. A relation can have multiple keys or candidate keys, which is nothing but a minimal super key, out of which we choose one of the keys as a primary key. So indirectly, I say that primary key is a subset of candidate key, which is again a subset of your super key. So I can have n number of super keys, n number of candidate keys, but talking about a primary key for each relation is only one. And whenever we want to choose a primary key from a candidate key, we do not have any restriction on choosing the primary key. You can choose any of the keys. If at all there are n keys in your candidate key, say n1, n2, n3, you can choose either n1 or n2 or n3 as a primary key from the list of candidate keys that are coming from the super keys. Try to understand this. Null values are also not allowed in a primary key. Hence, not null constraint is also part of a key constraint. So since nulls are not allowed in your primary key, indirectly, primary key also satisfies the condition of not null. Primary key also satisfies the condition of not null. Okay, and I hope we have seen this violation of constraints in relational database. So what happens when you try to insert or update or delete something from a database while you are trying to violate the constraints? So as an example, I'm working with domain constraint with respect to inserting data. So domain constraint gets violated when a given value of the attribute does not appear in the corresponding domain. So as an example, I've clearly given you, you have taken an attribute as integer and you are trying to enter a character data. that violates the domain constraint. Okay. Now, entity integrity constraints, if at all you're trying to enter a null value into a primary key, the system throws an error saying that null values are not supported by a primary key attribute. Null values are not supported by a primary key attribute. Key constraints. So key constraints, a key constraint is used for uniqueness. And if at all you're trying to repeat the same data again and again and again, it throws a error. That is the violation of your key constraint. Okay, see, insert 1200 Arjun, a phone number, and Mumbai into employee. This insertion violates the key constraint if EID 1200 is already existing in the database into which you're going to enter a new record. Then what happens? This particular insertion gets rejected. Now, talking with respect to referential integrity. On inserting a value in the foreign key of relation 1 for which there is no corresponding value in the primary key. I told you, whatever the values you want to enter into a foreign key constraint should be present in the primary key constraint. Otherwise, the value, whether it belongs to a particular domain of the data type of the foreign key attribute, it gives you an error because it is trying to refer to the primary key attribute. So if at all I say I have 1, 2, 3 in the primary key attributes, then you cannot enter a value 4 into a foreign key attribute. Okay, so the same example. Now, talking about other forms of constraints, you have got not null, unique, default, and check. So talking about not null, it ensures that a column value cannot be null. So whenever you feel that you have to give a particular value, to a specific column, then you take that particular column as not null. Not null constraint make sure that a column does not hold a null value. Okay, in such cases, you are working with the constraint not null. So how do you work with not null is create table student, roll number, integer, not null. What does this particular statement mean is whenever you are trying to create a roll number attribute, whenever you want to work with a particular attribute, roll number, and you feel that you have to give a value to that particular roll number, then you should take it as not null. You should take it as not null. Okay. For each and every attribute in a table, you can take not null, amma. It's up to you. And if at all you take a primary key attribute, no need to again mention it as not null. You can mention it also, not an issue. But by default, primary key does not allow null values. So you need not explicitly specify that. Next is unique. So unique constraint enforces a column or set of columns to have unique values. Okay, it is similar to your primary key. And it also says that particular column cannot have duplicate values. And how do you create a unique key is using the keyword unique. Now here, same relation I have taken, create table student, roll number, integer, not null, student name, variable character, size is 35, not null, unique. So you have to just mention unique keyword in order to work with a unique key. Okay. Next one is default. I'm talking about default now. So if at all you want to enter some default value for a particular column value, then you go with the keyword default. So if at all a user does not enter a value also for a particular field, and you do not want that particular field to be empty, rather it should be filled by some default value, then you're going to work with the default keyword. And the syntax for that is, I've taken over here exam fee integer default is 10,000. So if at all the student forgot to fill the fee value in the fee column, then the default value of 10,000 would be entered if at all you're using the keyword default while creating the table. This should be done at the time of creation of the table. Now, check constraint is used to check for a particular range of values with respect to a column. So if at all you say that you want to create a table for a student who is eligible for voting. So I want to store the data of students who are eligible for voting. So what I do is create student with name and age. So age should be greater than 18. So what I try to do is create table student, name is variable character 30, comma, age is integer, check age greater than 18. See here, create table student, roll number integer not null, check roll number greater than 1000. So here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put a condition that the roll number, whatever the student is entering, should be greater than 1000. So if at all I enter 999, it should throw me an error because I'm trying to work with a check constraint. Okay. Now try to understand check is not supported in your MySQL. Check is not supported in your MySQL. Okay, it is I think it's supported in Oracle exactly. Have to work with it, but check is not supported in your MySQL. So any questions as of now, Amma? Whatever I have covered, all of you? Are you able to understand, Ma? Any problems? Just respond. Okay, it's clear. Okay, now talking about different kinds of keys, Ma, this is the most important topic, Ma. While you're working with the third unit in normalization also, this will play an important role. Okay. So key plays an important role in the relational database. That is the reason I have mentioned it clearly, Amma. And you know what is the role of a key? It is used to uniquely identify any particular record. It is used to identify any particular record of a given table. And what are the different kinds of keys existing in your database management system is primary key, candidate key, super key, alternate key, composite key, and foreign key. So these are the major types of keys that you're going to work with, Amma. There might be some other keys also, but you have to be having a proper knowledge of all these different kinds of keys, whatever we are going to discuss. Okay. You know what is a primary key? It is a column or group of columns. So a primary key can be a simple attribute or a composite attribute. Composite in the sense you can have more than one column forming a primary key. you can have more than one column forming a primary key, right? Which uniquely identifies every row in that table. So this is common with almost all the keys, which uniquely identifies every row in that particular table. Meaning a primary key cannot have duplicate values. And try to remember this, a table cannot have more than one primary key. So whenever you are working with the concept of a primary key, a table cannot have more than one primary key. Okay, rules with respect to primary key. Two rows cannot have the same primary key value. The primary key field cannot be null. And the primary key value cannot be modified if at all any foreign key refers to that primary key. So whenever there is a concept of referential integrity, you cannot modify the primary key value. You cannot modify the primary key value. Okay. Now, talking about foreign keys, foreign keys are the columns of a table that points to primary key of another table. So foreign key, indirectly, I can say that it is used for connecting two tables or creating a relation between two tables with respect to a reference to primary key of another table. Okay. And unlike the concept of primary key, a foreign key can be null as well as contain duplicate values. So a foreign key can have null values as well as duplicate values, but that value should be coming from the primary key values. And since it can have duplicate values, it does not follow the uniqueness constraint. It does not follow the uniqueness constraint. Okay. And talking about the candidate key, candidate keys are defined as the minimal set of fields which can uniquely identify each record in a table. So it is defined as the minimal set of fields or columns or attributes, anything you can say, which can uniquely identify each record in a table. And it is an attribute or a set of attributes that can act as a primary key for that particular table. Okay. The value of a candidate key is unique and not null for every tuple. Clearly, I told you in the previous case. And the candidate key can be simple, having only one attribute, or composite with more than one attribute. And usually, it is a subset of a super key. A candidate key is a subset of your super key. Okay. Now, talking about the next kind of key, it is alternate key. Alternate key is a column or group of columns in a particular table that uniquely identifies each and every row in a table. Okay. And it is also taken from the list of candidate keys. Okay. So as we know that a table can have multiple choices for picking up a primary key. A table can have multiple choices of picking a primary key. And once you feel that a particular choice is taken as a primary key, all the other left out choices are called as alternate keys. So if at all I say that in the candidate key list, I have key 1, key 2, key 3 as the candidates. I have taken key 3 as the primary key. Then key 1 and key 2 would be the alternate keys. Key 1 and key 2 would be the alternate keys. Next is composite key. Composite key is a combination of more than one attribute. A key that has more than one attribute is known as a composite key. Sometimes it is also known as a compound key. So if at all you're not able to create a key using a single attribute, then you go with the concept of a composite key. You're not able to create a key with a single attribute, then you're going to work with the concept of creating a key with more than one attribute, which is termed as a composite key. So if at all I say my key is a combination of customer ID, order ID, product code, and product count, all the four attributes together I'm taking, then I can say that that particular key is called as a composite key. That particular key is called as a composite key. Okay. So see, in the above table, I have taken customer ID plus product code as your composite key. Okay. The last one is super key. A super key is a set of one or more attributes. So clearly I told you, Amma, you can form a key using a single attribute or a combination of attributes. So super key is a set of one or more attributes which can uniquely identify a particular row in a table. A particular row in a table. And that particular concept is called as a super key. And as I've already mentioned, candidate keys are selected from the set of super keys. Candidate keys are selected from the set of super keys. And while we are working with the concept of a candidate key, we should see that the candidate key should not have any redundant attributes. The candidate key should not have any redundant attributes. Indirectly, it means that super key can have the concept of redundant attributes, but candidate key cannot have the concept of redundant attributes, meaning it is the minimal form of a super key. Minimal form of a super key. Okay, see. What are the different super keys that are existing in this particular table? So see, each employee number is different from the other employee. Each employee SSN, social security number, is different from the other employee's SSN. I can take EMP SSN as a super key. Then employee number is also different. I can take employee number as an SSN. So names can repeat, so I cannot take that individually as a key attribute. Now, SSN plus employee number, I can take as a key. SSN plus employee name, I can take as a key. And wholly all together, I can take a key. And employee number plus employee name, I'm taking it as a key. So out of all these, these 6 are the super keys of a given relation. And out of these, what are the minimal set of attributes that are required to form a key is employee SSN and employee number. So I can say that employee SSN is one key attribute, which is a candidate key. Employee number is one key attribute, which is acting as a key attribute. Now, I have to look for the other super keys so that I can see whether it is able to form a candidate key or not. That is the way I'm trying to pick up a candidate key from the list of super keys. So this is about the concept of your different kinds of keys. See, the following 2 sets of super keys are chosen from the above sets as there are no redundant attributes in these sets. So employee SSN and employee number are acting as your candidate keys. And from these 2 keys, I have to pick up a primary key. So if at all I pick up employee SSN as the primary key, employee number becomes an alternate key. And if at all I pick up employee number as a primary key, employee SSN becomes the alternate key. So this is a briefing about different kinds of keys. Any problems with the keys, all of you? Are you able to understand? Yes. What is a key? What are the different kinds of key? And a briefing about what are the different kinds of keys that are existing. Any issues? Okay, now the most important topic, and the most interesting topic rather, is querying relational data. Querying relational data. So whenever you want to query a database, you have to have a thorough knowledge of all the keywords that you are going to use. So all the SQL statements start with any of the following keywords: select, insert, update, delete, alter, drop, create, use, show, etc. So these are the keywords with which usually an SQL statement starts with. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Try to understand that, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Okay. And every statement in your SQL ends with a semicolon. Every statement ends with a semicolon. And whenever you're talking about SQL, SQL is case insensitive. SQL is case insensitive. Okay. And the basic form of your SQL select statement, is select list of columns from a particular table name. Select list of columns from a particular table name. So select column 1, column 2, so on, column n from table name. Or you can use the concept of distinct, which displays only unique values from a given table. That would be select distinct of column 1, column 2, so on, column n from table name. Okay. And you can have one more form also here. Select star from table name. So whenever you feel that I have to display the complete contents of a particular table, you can use the concept of star, which is nothing but asterisk, specifies all. Select all from the table name. So whatever data is present in the table, that particular data would be displayed out. Now, you have a where clause with respect to select. Whenever you want to pick data or retrieve data with a specific condition, whenever you want to pick data or retrieve data with a specific condition, you're going to work with the where clause using the following syntax. So select column 1, column 2, column n from table name where condition. So whenever the condition is satisfied, then only this particular data would be printed out. And you can use the concept of logical connectives and or while you are working with a condition. So when you want to work with complex conditions, you can use and or. So you know what is logical and, you know what is logical or. Okay. So select column 1, column 2, column n from table name where condition 1 and or condition 2. Okay. And there's something called as a set operator, which uses the concept of in operator. Okay, so whenever you want to work with using a set of values, you use the concept of in. So select column 1, column 2, column n from table name, where column name in value 1, value 2, value 3. So see, I will just take a small example over here. Select 4 in 2, 3, 4. What would be the output of this? Select 4 in 2, 3, 4. What would be the output of this particular statement? Select 4 in 2, 3, 4. What would be the output of that particular statement, ma? Firstly, will it execute? Yes. It will not execute. Why, ma? Is there anything wrong with the statement? It's not a table. Select 3 plus 4. What is the output of this? Select 3 plus 4. 7. Then is there a table being used, ma? See, the output is 7. Select 4 in 2, 3, 4. What is the output you are getting over there? Are you able to see, ma? 1. 1 means true. Is 4 present in the list of values given using in? That is the question being asked, ma. So is 4 present in 2, 3, 4? Yes, 4 is present in 2, 3, 4. So instead of 4, if at all I am putting 1, 4, I'll get 0. Is it clear, ma? So this is the use of your in operator. Is it clear? Select cur date. You will get some outputs even without using tables. So it will give you the current date of the system. So there's something called as current time also, per time, I think. It's 11:50, 15 seconds. So the format of date would be YYYYMMDD. All of you know that. So this way you're going to work, Amma. So please try to remember this. There are some functions which you can directly do without using the concept of databases also. Okay, so that is in clause for you. So between, you have between similarly. Select column 1, column 2 from table name, where column name ranges between particular values. So if at all you want to list out or display information about employees whose age is between 10 and 20 or 30 or 40, then you are going to use the concept of between clause. Or you can use where age is greater than or equal to 30 and age less than or equal to 40. It's up to you. In order to make it simple, there is a keyword called between. And there's something which is called as counter. So whenever you are interested in finding out the number of rows you have entered so far, then you use the concept of count. I'll just give you a small example of count. Select star from stud table. So see, this is a table that was already created. It has got 6 rows. Now what I want to do is I want to display the number of IDs which have been entered. Select count of ID from stud table. It gives you 6. So you have 6 entries. 6 entries. Okay. And you can work with distinct here also. You can combine count with distinct, all that stuff you can do. We'll do it in the next classes to come. So this is the way you're going to work with count. And you can even work with something called count of star. It also gives you a value 6 because there are only 6 rows in the table. So count of star is with respect to the whole table. Star means all. Now, SQL create statement, all of you know how to create a table. At least now, 99% of you might be knowing how to create a table. So when you want to work with a create table, you're going to use a keyword called create table, table name. So if at all you want to create a view, create view, view name. You want to create a procedure, create procedure, procedure name. That way you have to work with. Okay. And you have to give the list of columns along with their data types and any constraints if required in the create statement. So create table, table name, column 1, data type, not null. Column 2, data type, primary key. Column 3, data type, default value. All that stuff you can give if required. Okay. Now you have a drop keyword, which is usually used to drop a table. You have a describe statement, which is used to describe a table, which gives you information of all the things with respect to the table. Then you have truncate, which is used to truncate a table. And you have the concept of alter, which is used to alter an already existing table, which is used to alter an already existing table. Using the keywords add, drop, modify. So you can drop existing columns. You can modify the existing column values with respect to the data type, all that stuff. And you can drop the existing columns, add any new columns to the existing table. And you can add it in a specific location also. Already I've shown you that, how to add columns in specific locations. Okay, then with alter you have rename. You can rename an existing table name to new name using this particular syntax. Alter table, table name, rename to new table name. So if at all you have something called as STUD existing, you're not happy with STUD, you want to rename that to STUDENT, then you can rename that. Alter table STUD, rename to STUDENT. That is the way you're going to rename our table to new name. Now, SQL delete statement, whenever you want to delete information, only specific information based on specific condition, then you use the concept of delete keyword. So if at all you write delete from table name, complete data would be deleted. And if at all you want only specific information to be deleted, you're going to use the where clause in order to work with condition. You're going to use the where clause when you want to work with condition. And next is, what are the different kinds of data types that are used while you're working with the create statement of your table. Okay, so you have integer types, Integers, whenever you want to work with integers, you have tiny int, small int, medium int, and big int. Usually we work with the integer data type. And if at all you want to save space, save memory, you can work with tiny int, small int. And if at all the number is huge, you can work with the concept of big int also. You can work with the concept of big int also. Now you have floating point types. You can work with float and double. So float follows the concept m comma d. Here values can be stored up to m digits in total, where d represents the decimal point. D represents the decimal point. Similarly, you can work with double. Next, you have string types. In string types, you have char and varchar. Whenever you're talking about char, it is fixed length, and varchar is variable length. So char is fixed length while varchar is variable length. That means a char of size x has exactly x characters. A char of size x has exactly x characters, while a varchar of size x can have up to x characters. Can have up to x characters. Okay. So that is the only difference between your character and variable character. Variable character is a bit slow and character is a bit fast. So whichever type you want to work with, you can work more. Then you have got the concept of string functions. String functions. The first one is concat. Concat is used to concat one or more string arguments. One or more string arguments. You can directly say select concat of hello, comma, world. Oh, concat spelling I have written wrong. So this way, so concat of hello, comma, world is hello world. So you can do concatenation of one or more strings. Okay. Next is string length. Whenever you want to find the length of a string, you're going to use the concept of length function. You're going to use the concept of length function. Okay. Select length of hello gives you 4. Select of hello gives you 5, sorry. So the length of hello is 5. So this way you're going to work with the concept of string length function. Now I have a table. Select star from stud table. So here what I'll do, select length of name from stud table. Everything in the name field is 5 characters. Now I'll change that to course. This will give me different 4, 2, 4, 3, 3, 2. So based on the number of characters that are existing in your column field, the length displays the number of characters in the given string. I hope it's clear, Next, left function. So the left function is a string function that returns the left part of a string with a specified length. So whenever you are interested in extracting or getting out the characters from the left side until a specific length, you're going to use the left function. And if at all you want to display the characters from the right side, you're going to work with the right function. And the syntax for left is left str comma length, and for right is right str comma length. So string would be what particular string or what particular attribute you are going to work with, and length is how many number of characters you want to display. So that is the concept of your left and right function. Then you have lower. Whenever you want to display the contents of a string in lowercase letters, you're going to use lower or L case. You're going to use lower or L case. So here, select L case of hello. So this would display the lowercase version of the string hello. Or you can also use lower amma. Anything can be used. Both the things gives you the same result. And there's something called as replace function. Whenever you want to replace the existing string using a new string, then you're going to work with replace. And the syntax is replace which particular string you want to replace. Okay. And new string, whatever you want to replace with. String old, string new, with what particular string you want to replace. Now see, I want to replace LO of HELO with LLO. Select replace of HELO. This is the old string. Which particular position you want to replace and with what you want to replace. So it takes 3 arguments. HELO is the old string or the string you want to replace, and what is the old string you want to replace with what you want to replace. So this is the concept of your replace function with respect to strings. Now there's something called as ltrim and rtrim. So whenever you want to remove the leading spaces in a particular string, you're going to use the concept of ltrim. And whenever you want to remove the trailing spaces of a string, you work with the concept of rtrim. The syntax is quite simple, amma. Select ltrim of a particular string or select rtrim of a particular string. Ma, are you able to understand, or I'm just going a bit fast, ma? Since this is only a briefing, I'm just giving you a brief and small example. Is it okay with you? All of you are able to understand? Or any questions, ma, until now? Please respond. Little slower, okay? Okay, ma. I hope all the string functions as of now are clear. Okay. What are the different string functions? See, I'm just going through that again. Concat is used for concatenating more than one string. Length function gives you the number of characters that are present in a given string. Left function, if at all you are interested in retrieving the left part until a particular length, you're going to use left. If at all you are interested in retrieving rightmost characters from a string of a particular length, you're going to work with right part. So syntax is select left of hello, comma 3. I'll just try to run it down, ma. Select left of hello, comma, 3. So from the beginning, 3 characters. Instead of left, if at all I put right, ma, it will display LLO, the last 3 digits. So this is about your left and right part of the string. Then lowercase, whenever you want to convert a given string into lowercase letters, you're using the keyword, the function lcase or lower. Already I've executed that for you. Then replace, ma. Select replace of HELO, comma, LO, comma, LLO. CM. By mistake, I have entered the name and the spelling of hello as HELO. So what I want to replace is, I want to replace the last 2 characters of HELO by LLO. That is what I'm doing using the concept of hello. Sorry, replace function. I'm sorry. I'm doing with the replace function. Ultimately, I'm getting HELLO. Okay, then I'm using ltrim. If at all you want to eliminate any leading spaces, you're going to work with the concept of ltrim. So see here, select ltrim of hello. It would be displayed like this. Okay, so all the spaces before hello are being removed. And if at all there are spaces after hello in the string, ma, you use the concept of rtrim, which is nothing but your right trim. Okay, so that is about your rtrim and ltrim. Now, there's a function called substring. So whenever you are interested in displaying a substring of a given length, then you can use the concept of a function called substring. It takes 2 arguments, the name of the string and the position. Name of the string and the position from which you want to display it. So select substring hello, comma, 3. Okay, right, 3. So I'm interested in displaying a particular part of a string or a substring. Then I'm going to work with the concept of a function called as substring. Since it is case insensitive, caps or small letters is the same. Both mean the same with respect to your MySQL. Okay, so you can have a negative value also. I told you the way you're working with the positive values is from the beginning to the end, give numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. From here, the values would be displayed out, ma. In this particular case, select substring of MySQL substring. There is a space over there. That is a reason space is also treated as a character. It has been given a number. So from 7 to the last is the substring. And while you're working with negative, start from the end to the beginning. Again, the same way you're going to work with. So usually we work with only positive values, only the numbering matters. And then you have an upper function. Whenever you want to convert a given string into uppercase letters, you are using the function called upper or ucase. Upper or ucase. Example, select ucase of hello. So everything would be displayed in the uppercase letters. Now, if at all I have got here uppercase letters also, no problem. It will display in the same way because you are trying to convert lowercase into upper or uppercase into upper. That is the job of your upper function. And this is the most important thing, like operator. So whenever you want some sort of pattern to be matched with respect to a column, then you're going to work with the concept of like operator. So the like operator is used in a where clause. So it's kind of a condition. It's kind of a condition. The like operator is used in a where clause to search for a specific pattern in a column. And it uses the following syntax. This is very important, ma. Select column 1, column 2 from table name, where a particular column like pattern. So which specific pattern you want to work with, that specific pattern can be given in the pattern. And these two are the most important symbols while you're working with the like operator. Percentile and underscore operator. Percentile and underscore operator. Okay. Now, so these are different forms of like operators. These are different forms of like operators along with the description. Along with the description. Okay. So see, where customer name like a percentile finds any values that start with a character A. Where customer name like a percentile finds any values that starts with a character A. And if at all, instead of a percentile, I'm putting percentile A amma, then finds any values that end with A. Finds any values that end with A. Okay. Now, where customer name like percentile or percentile. So in between the string, if at all OR is present in any position, that particular value would be coming as an output. Okay, if at all OR is existing together, that particular value would be coming out as an output. And next, where customer name like underscore R. So I'm interested in picking the details where the second character of the customer name is R. Finds any values that have R in the second position of the name. Now, where customer name like A underscore finds any values that starts with A and are at least 2 characters in length. So my customer name should start with A and it should have a minimum of 2 characters. And if at all I have more underscores, you just add the number of underscores in order to find the length. Okay. Now, where customer name like A percentile O. So it displays the details of the customers whose name starts with A and ends with O. Whose name starts with A and ends with O. This is about your like operator. Based on the question, you have to use any one of this descriptions. Now you have MySQL or SQL data types. The usual format is YYYYMMDD for date. Then you have date time format, 4Ys, MMDD, HH, minutes, SS. Again timestamp, the format is the same. Year you can work with YYYY or YY and work with 4Ys usually, so that you again don't get confused with the date as well as date timestamp. Okay, then you have date functions, current time gives you the current time of the system. Current date gives you the current date of the system. Then you have day. What is the day? It is 15 or 16 that way. Day name, it gives you the day name. So what is the day name of this particular date? Day of month, what is the day of the month which you have given? Day of week, it gives you a number. Day of year, all the three are same with respect to day. And this is what you're going to work with in your labs. Date difference. So date difference gives you the number of days with respect to two dates given to you. Okay, so date difference takes two arguments, D1 and D2. So select date difference of 2017 6/25, 2006 and 15. So I think this gives you a value 10, which is nothing but what is the difference between 2 days with respect to numbers. Just trying to execute that. See 10. A difference of those two particular days, it is giving you in terms of number of days. In terms of number of days. Then you have the concept of logical database design. Logical database design, where you are converting the ER models into relational tables. For binary relationship with cardinality ratio m/n, which is nothing but many to many. So there are two tables, A, B, with a set of attributes, and you need to convert this ER model into a relational model. What you're going to do is create tables for the entities that are existing, which is nothing but A with attributes A1 and A2, A1 being the primary key, and for entity B, B table with attributes B1 and B2, B1 being the primary key, and create a table for the relation. Create a table for the relation. Create a table for the relation, making A1 and B1 as the key attributes of relation. That is nothing but your foreign key. Okay, so this is the way you are converting a many-to-many relationship into a relational model, which is nothing but a set of rows and columns. 1:n. 1:n. Try to convert this into two tables with respect to the entities. A, the one side is taken as it is. The one side is taken as it is. You can see it clearly. A1, A2, A1 is the primary key. And the N side, which is nothing but B. A1, B1, B2. So A1 is acting as the foreign key, which references A1 of capital A. Okay, you can take this relation as directly B also, no issues, or you can make that as BR. It's up to you. Okay, so this is the conversion of 1:n. One side, you're taking it as it is. On the many side, you are adding the primary key of one side as a foreign key on the many side. I hope it's clear. Next is m/n. The same way, the reverse of your 1:n. So on the M side, you're taking the one side's primary key as a foreign key. So AR has two attributes over here, A1, A2, and B1 would be coming from capital B. Now capital B has B1 comma B2, where B1 is the primary key. And lastly, 1-to-1. 1-to-1 can be represented in two ways, ma. Way one is you're adding the primary key of B to A, or way two is you're adding the primary key of A to B as a foreign key. So first way of representation would be A will be having an additional attribute B1, which is coming from B, and B will be as it is. The way two would be A will be as it is, and B would be having the primary key of A as a foreign key in BR. So this is the way I'm going to convert cardinality into your relation tables. Is it clear? You have any questions, ma? As of now, is it clear, ma? All of you? Roll number 63. Is it okay, ma, now? Now this is a hierarchy, amma. This is a hierarchy. So whenever you want to convert is a hierarchy into tables, first method is take all the entities that are participating over the relation. I took here only employee, teacher, and counselor, amma. If at all you wish, you can add administrator also, no issues. So employee will be having all the higher level attributes in the conversion, which is nothing but employee, employee ID, employee name, and employee age. What are all the attributes for employee would be present. Now talking about the teacher, I've got teacher ID as its attribute. Along with that, I'll be taking the employee ID of the employee, which is the key attribute, into the teachers table. Now, next I told counselor, amma. Counselor does not have any attributes over here. So I'm taking the key attribute of the employee, which is nothing but employee ID. And if at all I want to add administrator, administrator can be added here, the fourth entity, and sorry, as the fourth table. Since administrator does not have any attributes, you will be working with only one attribute, which is nothing but the employee ID. So this is the way you're going to convert is a hierarchy into relational tables. So this was an example given to you, amma. I'm not covering that again. But do you want me to cover the relational algebra also? Or is it okay? Yes, all of you. Do you want me to explain relational algebra also, amma? Please respond, all of you. Whatever I have covered, briefed about until now, is it clear, amma, first? Yeah, Anil, I'll do that, amma. I'm just asking whether all of you have understood the concepts or not. All of you, no response. Okay, Amma. Talking about relational algebra. Relational algebra is a procedural query language that works on a relational model. Already, I told you this. It is a procedural query language. Means that it tells what data needs to be retrieved and how that particular data will get retrieved. So I'm specifying what is to be retrieved and how it is to be retrieved. That is the reason it is called as a procedural query language. And the different operations that are used in relational algebra. Different operations that are used in relational algebra are selection, sigma is the symbol, projection, usually we call it as select, sigma, project, pi, union, u, set difference, minus, Cartesian product, and rename. So these are the major operators that are actually used in your relational algebra, along with the concept of joins. Along with the concept of joins. Okay, so you have different kinds of joins. Again, you have intersection and division operations with which are the set operators. Okay, now talking about the first operator, select operator. I told you it is denoted by sigma and it is used to display a set of tuples in a relation based upon satisfaction of a given condition. And usually the general form is sigma p of r. Sigma p of r, where sigma is the symbol for the selection operator, p is the predicate or condition, and r is the relation. And you can even write this way. Sigma condition slash predicate. It can be treated as a condition or a predicate from a relation or a table name. From a relation or a table name. So see, I have a customer table. Now, if at all I want to display the list of customers who live in Agra. List of customers who live in Agra. So how do I write the query? How do I write the query, Ma? Sigma is the symbol. Sigma. CUSTO. Customer underscore city is equal to Agra from customer. So this is the way I work with a select operator with respect to your relational algebra. The same in your MySQL would be select star from customer where city like Agra. So this would be the query, or city is equal to Agra. But I'm working with relational algebra. That is the reason I'm working with the concept of symbols. So sigma customer city is equal to Agra, which is nothing but the condition over here. This is the condition from which table? It is the customer table. Okay. Now see, consider the students table. I've got ID, name, and age. Fetch data for students with age more than 17. Fetch data for students with age more than 17. So sigma, the condition is age should be greater than 17. That is the reason in place of predicate, I've written age greater than 17 from the students table. From the students table. Okay. Now, return tuples from table student with information of male students of age more than 17. Now what I want is, I want you to display age should be greater than 17 and gender should be male. So what I'm trying to do here is I am trying to add one more column, gender. I'm trying to add one more column, gender. Okay. I'm trying to add one more column where I'll be having male and female students. So I'm interested in displaying the details of the students who are male and who are greater than 17. So I can use the concept of logical operators in order to work with complex conditions. Since I have to test more than one condition, I have to use the concept of your logical operators. So see, sigma, the condition is age should be greater than 17. The first condition is age should be greater than 17 and gender is equal to male. From where? From the students table I'm picking. So age greater than 17 and gender is equal to male. So instead of this, if at all I say, display the details of students who are either greater than 17 or male students, then what I can do? I can put an or over here. Or. It is either or. In the previous case, it was both the conditions. In this case, it is either greater than 17 or is a male student. Now the next one is project operator. So whenever you are interested in only specific columns, from a particular table based on conditions, you're going to work with the project operator. So see, it takes the following form. Pi is the symbol used, pi is the symbol used, pi A1, A2. What are the columns you want to work with from the relation R? Okay. Now see, display the customer name and city from the customers table. What I've already shown you. Display customer name and city. So project customer name, comma customer city from customer table. And you can club sigma and pi based on the situation number. So whenever you are asked a question based on combination of both the operators, you can combine both the operators also. I'll give you certain examples on that as a homework. You can do that. And I hope this was explained to you and you had to work on one more table. Whether you have done it or no, I don't know. Okay. Next, union operator. All these set operators I'll be again covering for you in the third unit with respect to MySQL. So since what is union operation? This operation is used to fetch data from two relations. And for this operation to work, the relations specified should have same number of attributes and same domain. Okay, so both the relations should be union compatible in order to apply union operation. Okay, and how you're working with this in MySQL would be covered in the next chapter, Amma, which I'll start in the next class. Okay, then you have intersection, Amma. What is intersection? Whenever there's something common between two relations, that would be coming out, and the symbol is inverted U over here. So again, it should have same columns. All that stuff is a compulsory condition for union and intersection. I've given you examples clearly. Okay, now next, minus, set difference, all that stuff. What is set difference? So set difference is denoted by minus symbol. And let's say we have two relations R1 and R2, and we want to select all those tuples that are present in relation R1, but they are not present in relation R2. Then we use the concept of set difference operator. So R1 minus R2 will give you the tuples present in R1. Okay, and but not present in R2. And you can write the same thing in the reverse order, R2 minus R1. So you can use it in two ways. One is R1 minus R2 and R2 minus R1. Okay, that is set difference. And minus is not supported in your MySQL. You're going to work with the concept of joins. You're going to work with the concept of joins in order to work with minus. And intersection is also not supported. Try to understand that. Okay, intersection is also not supported. Now, Cartesian product. Cartesian product is denoted by this particular symbol. And whenever you want to work with Cartesian product with respect to two relations R1 and R2, then the resultant of Cartesian product would combine each tuple of the first relation with each tuple of the second relation. So it leads to concept of redundant data because there is no condition that is being applied while you are trying to combine two tables. Okay, now whenever you have n number of rows in relation 1 and m number of rows in relation 2, the Cartesian product will be having m into n rows. M into n rows. That is the reason we have specified would combine each tuple of first relation R1 with each tuple of second relation R2. As an example, see over here, column A, column B of table T1, column X, column Y of table T2. Whenever I try to have a cross product between T1 and T2, then I'll be having AA100 XX99, AA100 YY11, AA100 ZZ101. That is what is being written over here. AA100 XX99, AA100 YY, what is that? 101, so on. So each row of T1 would be combined with each row of T2. Okay. So this is about your Cartesian product, R cross X. And then you have the concept of views. View is nothing but a virtual table. Joins I will cover in the next session. Views is nothing but it is a kind of virtual table which is also made up of rows and columns similar to a real table. We can create a view by selecting one or more fields from one or more tables present in the database. Okay, and it is not necessary to have all the rows that are present in a table which you are taking in order to create a view. Okay, and a view is created using the create keyword only. Okay, so creating views, we can create a view using create view statement. We can create a view using create view statement using the following syntax. Create view view name, create view name as select column 1, column 2, so on from table name. If at all you want to work with the condition, you can give the where clause, or if at all you do not want to specify any condition, you can eliminate the where clause. So this is about how you create a view using a single table. You can create a view using multiple tables also based on conditions. Okay. Now you can work with creating a view, then you can insert data into a view, and you can delete a view. Insert data into a view, delete a view, you can update a view, all that stuff using the syntax. I'll tell you in the next class, ma. Okay. Any questions, ma? Any questions? All of you? Amma, it does not take a long time to respond, ma. All of you, please respond. Is it clear?